This is Right to Life Radio with John Girardi on Power Talk 96.7 and AM 1400, a production of the Right to Life of Central California. And now, here's your host, John Girardi.
The state of California's, we'll start that off better. The state of California's lawless attack on religious employers who don't want to provide abortion coverage for their employees continues to live another day with yet another court victory. You're listening. Leave that initial hiccup in, producer Raphael. We want the people to see the unvarnished truth of how bad we are at radio. You're listening. Just kidding. You're listening to Right to Life Radio on Power Talk 96.7 and AM 1400. John Girardi with you today. Joining me, that voice chuckling Beavis and Butthead-like at my jokes. He's a butt. Is none other than Jonathan Keller from California Family Council. How you doing, Jonathan?
I'm doing pretty good, John. It's been a busy couple weeks, especially with the legislature full court press on all these crazy bills. Yes. And apparently, as we're hearing, not getting a lot of help from the judiciary.
No, they are not. It's almost like when you have one party consistently in power for over a decade, stuff happens.
Yep.
Anyway.
Stuff being happened.
Speaking of stuff, let's talk about some of that stuff.
A whole pile of stuff. Steaming hot pile
of stuff. Bull stuff. This is a story from the Los Angeles Times from last week that we need to talk about because it's a very important topic as regards abortion in California. Back in 2014, the California Department of Managed Health Care issued a regulatory decision, a letter, basically saying, hey, you insurance companies, a lot of you out there are helping out some of your religious clients by providing them with plans that exclude certain kinds of practices, certain kinds of healthcare practices with which your clients disagree. Things like abortion, things like contraception, etc. So we're going to step in because Planned Parenthood complained to us about this. We are going to step in and we are going to say, no, insurance companies are not allowed to provide any exclusions that basically California state law requires that every insurance plan sold in California has to cover basic health care, and abortion is basic health care. Now, a group of nuns from Southern California decided to sue and said, hey, we don't want to pay for that. We don't want that to be part of what we are paying for. And they filed a lawsuit claiming that the regulatory change was unlawful. Well, unfortunately, it got to a California Court of Appeals, which rejected their request and basically said, no, California was totally legal and justified in doing this. So here's now the only story about it, seemingly, is in the form of a column, a business column, written as a sort of op-ed opinion piece written by this guy named Michael Hiltzik, a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist.
He's the worst.
Who writes a daily blog appearing on LATimes.com. His business column appears in print every Sunday and occasionally on other days.
Author, I just have to say, author of some of the worst pieces of journalism I have ever read in the LA Times.
Really?
On
what topics? I was not actually familiar with it.
Just about anything. He is like an incredibly snide, weaselly, progressive columnist.
Okay. Well, tell us how you really feel. All right. So here's his column. Bucking federal policy, like the First Amendment. California court blocks church attack on abortion coverage. This is a church attack on abortion coverage.
And California...
As if the church is on the aggressive here, as opposed to a group of nuns who didn't want to cover abortion who were then forced to by the state of California. But no, it's the little nuns who are on the attack. The missionary Guadalupana sisters.
And John, I have to point out, look here, if you're an LA Times reader and you're a good, faithful, card-carrying Hollywood liberal, what is federal policy synonymous for?
Trump.
That's right.
Trump, Trumpity, Trump.
So in other words, bucking federal policy, a brave California court stands up to Trump.
Yes.
And defends the rights of abortion access against these religiously motivated attacks from John. I'm sure because it says, church attacks and federal policy. I'm sure we're talking about, Jerry Falwell and
some big mega church.
Yeah, it's Mike Pence leading the charge. He's
the Knights of Columbus.
Yeah.
The Mormons. The whole Tabernacle Choir.
Yeah, they all of them came down with their pitchforks and torches.
No, it was in fact.
I almost said pitches and torchforks.
Yeah, well, that too. No, it was a group of nuns called the Missionary Guadalupanas of the Holy Spirit.
Sounds dangerous.
Yeah, who seem to be concerned with helping poor people in Mexico and Latin America and Los Angeles.
Everyone knows,
very threatening.
Everyone knows that's just a cleverly disguised front, John.
Yeah, really, it's probably a Koch brothers founded front group just to finance, litigation against policies that Democrats don't like. Okay, so here's the column. And again, the title of it is California Court Blocks Church Attack on Abortion Coverage. I guess they couldn't go with church pounces because this is a running joke among conservatives on Twitter that anytime a liberal does something stupid, the headline in whatever mainstream media outlet that covers it is not liberal does something stupid. It's conservatives pounce on liberal, because we have to always show conservatives as being the evil attacking aggressors. We can never just say that a liberal ever did something stupid. So this is a church attack on abortion coverage. Here's the actual column, again by Michael Hiltzik, Jonathan Keller's least favorite person, from the Los Angeles Times. That is the sound of Jonathan Keller gagging. An effort by a California mission to narrow like, he seems to be thinking that a group of sisters is called a mission, a group of nuns is called a mission, like Junipero Serra's churches that he established up and down California. I guess he doesn't understand that. An effort by a Catholic mission to narrow the accessibility of abortion insurance coverage in California. No. It's not narrowing the accessibility. It's just asking that they don't have to pay for it. An effort by a Catholic mission to narrow the accessibility of abortion insurance coverage in California has been dealt a blow by a state appeals court, which has ruled that abortion must be covered by health plans sold in the state. A 3-judge panel of the State Court of Appeals threw out the case brought by the Missionary Guadalupanas of the Holy Spirit, which claimed that... Does he ever note at some point that these are nuns? I don't know that he does.
Why would you say that?
Yeah, he does not actually say that these are nuns who are being forced to pay for abortion coverage. Anyway, which claimed that it was forced to participate in a grave moral offense by a state regulation mandating that all insurance policies provide abortion coverage. The mission's own members, again, he keeps calling it a mission. I don't know why he does that. It's not a mission, it's an order of nuns. The mission's own members, quote, presumably would never have an abortion, the judges ruled, but the mission, quote, objects to other plan participants being allowed to have abortion coverage. No, it objects to other plan participants having abortions that the Missionary Guadalupanas have to fund with their money. The mission's argument, he keeps calling it a mission. This guy is an idiot.
I told you.
The mission's argument, the court observed, was that others' abortion coverage would be subsidized by its own members' premiums, which the members consider morally, ethically, and religiously unacceptable. Okay, fair. The judges found that argument to be a bridge too far. The mission attempts to limit the coverage of most abortions by healthcare service plans in California, they noted.
Just an FYI, as an example.
Wow, Michael Hiltzik blocked you?
I am blocked. Yeah.
Just Jonathan Keller is? Or California Family Council?
Jonathan Keller.
Did you ever comment on his things or anything?
I think I must have retweeted him critically at some point. And, God forbid that a columnist for the largest newspaper in the nation's largest state take criticism from public policy advocates.
All right. Well, now I know he's a bad guy because he blocks Jonathan Keller. Jonathan, I would never block you.
Oh,
you're my bud. You're my bud. We ride together. We die together, bro. Okay. Anyway. Michael Hiltzik, who continues to not know how to describe an order of Catholic nuns, writes, basically, he says that the judges found that argument to be a bridge too far. The mission, quote, the order of nuns, he should say, quote, attempts to limit coverage of most abortions by healthcare service plans in California. No, they just want an exclusion for themselves. That's all they were asking. Hiltzik writes, that would violate the state constitution and state law, which guarantee the right to abortion. Again, no one is attacking the right to abortion. They're attacking whether they have to be forced to pay for an insurance plan that covers abortion. That is what they're fighting. Not whether you can get an abortion, whether they have to pay for it in their insurance plan. That's very important in state law, Beth Parker, General Counsel to Planned Parenthood of Northern California, told me. Extending it to health plans is an important principle. What's also important is that the ruling upholds state law that is very much at odds with the winds of change in women's reproductive health rights in several Midwestern and Southern states and at the federal level.
The winds of change.
Winds of change. Good Lord. Get over yourself. Abortion rights have been systematically narrowed by legislatures in those states. Well, they haven't yet. They've all been held up in the courts. Anyway. Meanwhile, the Trump administration has been trying to expand the authority of employers to deny women coverage for abortion and contraception services on religious or, and he puts this in scare quotes, moral grounds. Yeah.
How could anyone
on
have
moral grounds
an objection to
like
insurance coverage on moral grounds? Like I said, John, when I sent you this article, I have to admit, I did not actually realize that it was a Michael Hiltzig column.
Oh, you didn't? You just knew it stunk?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Ugh. So as we'll wrap up this segment, producer Raphael's trying to corral this thing. He's trying to bring this train wreck back on the track. It's not only that the people on the pro-choice side of things reject our arguments or disagree on their arguments. He's putting the notion that we would disagree with it on moral grounds. He's putting the word moral in scare quotes. It's like, it's not only that they disagree with us, they cannot fathom how anyone could possibly disagree with them. I mean, I at least understand their arguments and can debate with them like an adult, but they just want us completely shut out of all society. They basically think we are the equivalent of Holocaust deniers or moon landing deniers, whatever, that we're wearing tinfoil hats. Anyway, stay tuned. We're going to continue talking about this. You're listening to Right to Life Radio on Power Talk 96.7 and AM 1400. We're loving Spoonful with us this morning. Thank you all so much for listening to Right to Life Radio. A production, as always, of Right to Life of Central California, rtlcc.org. We're very jazzed about, we have some new interns working for us at Right to Life.
Hey.
We have Julia and Michelle. We're very pleased to have them on board.
Wait, are you serious? Their names are Julia and Michelle?
Yeah.
That's literally my wife's first name and middle name.
Well, obviously, that's why we hired them.
I'm glad to hear it.
So, Julia and Michelle are working for us at Right to Life, and
you're not Michelle's just trolling me. These are actual.
These
people.
are literally their names. Okay. I did not know Julia's middle name was Michelle. So
we have two coming in next week that are Hudson and Matthew.
Jonathan, Richard.
Yeah.
Anyway, Julia and Michelle are working for us. Michelle has an article that I think will be up. That is up, I believe, on. Somehow she's going to be writing columns for us on our blog, so check that out to look for that. Gosh, what did she just write about? Oh, doggone it!
It really made an impact.
Oh, okay, she was writing about. Was she writing about SB24? No, I wrote about SB24. Anyway, go check it out. It was really good.
It was so good.
And she was writing about this topic. She was writing about this very topic about this lawsuit and the Guadalupana sisters. Losing their court challenge to challenge California's completely ridiculous regulations that require all insurance plans in the state to cover elective abortions. All right. Now, we talked in the last segment about the LA Times column reporting on this, that basically what happened in 2014, California Department of Managed Healthcare issued this letter saying every insurance plan in the state has to cover elective surgical abortion as part of essential healthcare. That is mandatory. Basically, they had targeted a couple of Catholic universities in the state that received exclusions from their insurance providers so that they did not have to provide that in their plans. Planned Parenthood got wind of this. They got really mad. They go to the California Department of Managed Healthcare. They complain. They interact with the California Department of Managed Healthcare, and the California Department of Managed Healthcare does what they want. And they issued this letter in 2014 basically saying, nope, you insurance companies, you can't provide any more exclusions like that. All insurance plans in this state have to cover elective surgical abortions. An order of nuns who are based in Mexico but who have a presence in Los Angeles sued, saying that they were being forced to pay for coverage that they morally objected to, as is essentially anyone in the state who has a health insurance plan. Now, the court rejected basically this got to a California appellate court, so this is sort of the mid-level of the California court system. You have the Superior Court, you have the Appeals Court, and then you have the California Supreme Court. And I'm a little miffed by how this lawsuit sort of got filed, because it seems to be just challenging it on the basis of California regulatory law. And there's no way that the ultra-liberal California Supreme Court or California appellate courts are going to... Basically, if it's purely a question of California appellate law, of California regulatory law, then there's no way that the United States Supreme Court is going to try to review this. If it's just a question of internal California law, the U.S. Supreme Court does not hear appeals from that. It says, okay, California, you're on your own. The California Supreme Court, they're the last say on what California law is or is not supposed to be. This is purely a California law question. There's no First Amendment challenge or anything, so therefore this is basically kaput. Now, I want to read some of the decision that was issued because it was really snotty and it raises a couple of issues that we've talked about on this show a lot and I think bear repeating. So the judges in the California Appellate Court decision, again, rejecting the request from Catholic nuns to allow them to have the option to purchase insurance plans that don't cover abortion. This is what they write. It says, this case presents the narrow question of whether respondent Michelle Roulard, in her capacity as director of California's Department of Managed Healthcare, violated the Administrative Procedure Act when she sent letters to 7 healthcare service plans directing them to comply with California law in their coverage of abortion services. Healthcare service plans are required by law to cover basic healthcare services, quote, where medically necessary. The issue tendered here and below is whether a voluntary abortion is a medically necessary procedure that healthcare service plans are required to cover. By setting up a false choice between voluntary abortions and medically necessary abortions, the petitioner attempts to limit coverage of most abortions by healthcare service plans in California. Okay, so this is getting to a really key philosophical question. All right? Which is whether abortion is genuinely health care at all. This sort of gets elaborated upon. The court writes, the petitioner, that in this case the nuns, does not attempt a definition of, quote, medically necessary. It cannot mean only life-saving treatment. Many basic healthcare services are not life-saving treatments, nor can the term be limited to its definition in Welfare and Institutes Code Section 140, blah, 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 addressing Medi-Cal reimbursements. That law defines medically necessary treatment as, quote, reasonable and necessary to protect life, to prevent significant illness or significant disability, or to alleviate severe pain. Particularly in the case of women's reproductive health, basic health care that is medically necessary includes labor and delivery services, even though such services may not be necessary to, quote, protect life, prevent significant illness or significant disability, or to alleviate severe pain. I'm not sure what kinds of health care in the area of labor and delivery don't protect life, prevent significant illness or significant disability, or alleviate severe pain, but I'll continue. We need not comprehensively define the term medically necessary for purposes of this case.
Why do that, John?
Why? It might lead to a conclusion you don't like. However, in broad terms, a, quote, medically necessary procedure must include a procedure that is a generally recognized treatment for a medical condition presented by the patient. This is the crux of it.
Oh, yes. I remember this line.
While the department may well be obligated to comply with the APA if it wants to narrow the broad definition, there is no need to comply with the APA in this case because an abortion procedure is both a recognized treatment for the medical condition of a patient's pregnancy and a treatment every woman in California has the legal right to choose.
I don't know, John,
this is the crux of the whole thing.
I don't know that I've ever heard a court describe abortion as a medical treatment for the condition of pregnancy. I've heard some crazy wackadoo fringe abortion activists on college campuses say that.
Right.
But to actually hear that from a court that pregnancy is a strange condition in which a woman finds herself, and it's a good thing that finally we have a treatment.
Yeah.
For this bizarre condition that has been afflicting women for thousands of years,
aka other human beings, aka pregnancy. This is the crux of the matter. Is abortion healthcare? Is abortion a treatment for a pregnancy? The obvious answer to that, I think, for any person who is rational, who is not blinded by their ideology, is that, no, this isn't... first of all, pregnancy is not a condition that needs treatment in the same sense that, like, a tumor is a tumor.
And
get it out. It's a tumor.
An ectopic pregnancy is a condition.
That is a condition.
An
ectopic pregnancy is a condition. It is something that is wrong, that is malfunctioning with the human body, that requires a certain course of treatment in order to safeguard and foster and protect human life.
Preeclampsia is a condition that needs treatment. Placental previa is a condition that needs treatment.
Pregnancy is not a condition in that same sense, and even if it is a condition, abortion is not something that is treating the condition.
Yep.
Abortion is simply eliminating this state. This is the crux of the question. Is abortion genuinely medicine? Is abortion genuinely healthcare? Is it genuinely a treatment? How you answer that depends much more on philosophy than it does on law, and how you answer that will be really determinative to this whole thing. We're going to talk about this more after the break. You're listening to Right to Life Radio on Power Talk 96.7 and AM 1400. This is Jamie Americans. Thank you all so much for listening to Right to Life Radio.
John, since you brought up JMA Americans, I'm going to tell you I did not realize till the last several months that in addition to this very popular song, they also included the Come a Little Bit Closer song.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a great song.
Awkward.
first made popular in that stellar Marvel movie, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
For goodness sake. Oh, Lord. It was not first made. Gosh. Jeez Louise.
Any chance I have to bring up the great musical selection choices of one James Gunn.
You guys realize that the whole reason the Guardians of the Galaxy went from a mediocre comic book action movie to, like, beloved somehow
Cult
is
classic.
Just because they had, like, decently good music. You all could have just bought the soundtrack and been just as happy.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, and Chris Pratt, the transformation of Chris Pratt from schlubby Parks and Rec actor
to mediocre action person.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Love it. Love it. Just love all movies.
I encourage you.
Love Marvel movies. Just want to hand all my money over to Disney.
I encourage all of you to go get the soundtrack and listen to that great Jay and the American song.
Or you could just, Google, or you could just turn on any classic rock station and listen to it. Or, any radio station practically and listen to all those same songs without having to fork over a bunch of money to Disney for music you can get anywhere. You're listening to Right to Life Radio. The seething dissension between myself and Jonathan over the Marvel Cinematic Universe rages unabated. All right. So we've been talking about this decision by the California Appellate Court from last week to deny to a group of Roman Catholic nuns from Mexico their petition to not have to pay for abortion in their health insurance plan. That everyone in the state, anyone who has a health insurance plan, you got to pay for abortion. Absolutely mandatory. If not, the whole constitutional order falls apart. And the crux of the judge's decision was centered around this question. Basically, California law requires that all basic health care has to be covered in California health plans. And the contention from this 2014 letter, and by the way, let me just note, California issued this regulation that every single insurance plan has to cover elective surgical abortion as part of, quote, essential care. California only seemed to come to the realization that elective surgical abortions are, quote, essential care in 2014. For all of our previous history, we had somehow never discerned that California law required abortion to be covered as essential care, and had always allowed insurance companies to provide exceptions for their clients who didn't want to have to pay for this. But no, it was only in 2014, that somehow, magically, we discerned that that's actually what the law required. Anyway, you can do your own math as to whether or not that was actually the case. But the whole thing is premised around this question: is abortion health care? And the way that the court discussed this, they basically said that pregnancy is a condition that has two different methods of treatment: abortion or delivery. And every woman in California is entitled to both, or to either, rather. This is a kind of gross way of talking about pregnancy, as, you know, using essentially the same language about pregnancy that you would use for a tumor. A tumor is a condition, and it has certain forms of treatment. Pregnancy is a condition, and it has these two forms of treatment.
Non-controversial forms of treatment.
Yeah.
Like if you have, gallstones, you could either, take medicine or have ultrasound-related treatment to try to break them up, or you could have your gallbladder removed. Two perfectly acceptable,
different
three acceptable forms of treatment.
Yeah, of course. Nothing to see here.
You could give birth to the fetus, or you could have it surgically removed.
Yes, have it surgically removed.
No big
deal.
deal.
No big deal. No big deal. Now, the crux of the question is whether abortion is even health care at all. And that's really the unanswered question. I note with sort of irony, well, with not irony, maybe with a rueful grin on my face, that the California Appellate Court in their decision refused to actually define what is medically necessary treatment. They refuse to actually define what medical treatment is, because I think if they did, it would have to exclude something like abortion. But the idea behind what is medicine? Medicine is designed to be an intervention to help correct a problem with the human body, to bring it to what it is ordered to health, to flourishing. That is what medicine is. That is what medicine does. As a result, there are certain kinds of things that maybe we could define as medical adjacent, as involving medical practitioners, as potentially having bad medical side effects or outcomes possible from it, but which are not in and of themselves medical treatments, or certainly not medically necessary, because they are not correcting a medical problem. My go-to example for this, anytime I've talked about it, is cosmetic breast implants. All right, you're an A cup. You want to get some double D's because you think you'll look more attractive and whatever. You want to help out your acting career or something. You're in Hollywood, whatever. You go to a plastic surgeon. That's not really medical treatment. It's not like...
It's a truly elective procedure.
Yeah, I mean, you're having smaller breasts is not a healthcare problem. It's not a malady. It's not a condition. Okay, it just means this is how you were born. You're perfectly healthy.
I just want to say
this is just
I'm very much looking forward to the inevitable press conference when you're running for office, discussing this segment.
I mean, I don't think I'm saying anything controversial. No, this is a very body positive approach. Hey,
sure.
All women are beautiful. Okay, like don't think that you need plastic surgery just to be beautiful.
That's right. We're agreeing. We're saying it is elective because it's unnecessary.
Yeah, we're body positive here on Rights. I mean, hey, we're no prizes ourselves here.
That's right.
Like just we're not saying we're anything to write home about in the looks department. I mean, certainly not Jonathan. Anyway, So But there's obviously a distinction between elective cosmetic breast implants, and I'll say this. There's a big difference between breast implants for a purely cosmetic reason. You have a perfectly healthy person who just wants bigger boobs. That is different from, say, someone who had a mastectomy.
Yes.
And would like, to have reconstructive breast implants to maybe even, you only had a mastectomy on one breast. You want to make things symmetrical, whatever. Like that, there's a big difference there, I would say. I think to return something to its former appearance or something, I think that's different. I think that is getting closer to the definition of actual medical treatment. Abortion is, in the overwhelming majority of cases, excluding something like an ectopic pregnancy, it's not even really properly termed an abortion in a lot of ways. Abortions are not chosen chiefly because of medical reasons. They're chosen because of social reasons. They're chosen because of economic reasons. They're chosen because of all kinds of reasons that don't directly relate to a person's health, to a person's physical bodily health. And we have to acknowledge that in our discussion of abortion, that this is not treating a medical problem. It is not taking something that is malfunctioning with the body and bringing it to a place of health and flourishing. It is something chosen for reasons that have nothing to do with medicine or healthcare, and thus, properly speaking, cannot be defined as healthcare. It just can't. It's something adjacent to that, and insurance providers should have the latitude, just as they have the latitude to cover or not cover artificial boob jobs. Insurance companies have to have the latitude not to cover it, particularly when we're talking about something that a huge percentage of the population has grave moral objections to. All right, we'll keep digging into this after the break. You're listening to Right to Life Radio on Power Talk 96.7 and AM 1400. Right to Life Radio. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Very groovy day to everybody. The best music in the greater Fresno area radio market. All right.
Which song is this?
She's Gone. She's Gone. By Hall & Oates. Everybody's high on consolation. And then it goes, she's gone, she's gone. Oh my, oh my, oh my. How can the devil shoot a place where she's gone? I don't actually know any of the lyrics, but because it's a lot of she's gone. Anyway, Right to Life Radio, giving you all the best critical commentary on the music of yesteryear. All right. So we have to do it again. We have to give an update on SB 24. Now, my first thing I want to say is a huge thank you to the thousands of you throughout the Valley who signed the petition that we sort of helped work on. We were helping with like collecting them and distributing them and mailing them. We didn't actually, it was Fresno Pro-Life Future in the Diocese of Fresno who kind of drafted them and initially distributed them, and we're very grateful to the Roman Catholic Diocese of Fresno for allowing their churches to collect signatures on this. Signatures against SB 24. This is the bill that requires medication abortion to be made available at the student health centers of every CSU and UC. Now, I was hopeful that it would stop, that SB 24 was going to stop at the Appropriations Committee, particularly after the California Department of Finance, which is Governor Newsom's own department, which provides him with bill analysis about the fiscal impact of legislation. His own California Department of Finance opposed SB 24, which shocked most of us, because there are a lot of positions that you can take on a bill. You can take oppose if amended, oppose unless amended. You can take support if amended, and these are all ways of softening the problems that you have with a bill. California Department of Finance just said, no, we oppose this bill. This is bad. This is bad legislation. It's not, regardless of the ideology behind it, it seems that the California Department of Finance was just saying, look, this program is not funded adequately. It's going to require CSUs and UCs to increase their student tuition. The people who are supposed to run this don't have the necessary expertise to run it. They don't have the necessary experience with medical billing. This is going to cost way more than they think it's going to cost. This is just bad. This is bad through and through. It doesn't make sense. And it's particularly delicious to me because there's something about the sort of the arrogance of the pro-choice side in California that it's this, big unity they have with this confluence between big government and the big abortion lobby. And they have this air of like total professionalism to them. And to hear the California Department of Finance actually give a really harsh analysis of this and say, you people have no idea what you're doing. You people are so full of bleep, your eyes are turning brown. That's my words, not theirs. It was really gratifying for me to see that this legislation was exactly as stupid as we all thought it was from the beginning. We've been constantly reiterating, those of us on the pro-life side, every time we have a hearing, those of us on the pro-life side get up there and we say, look, this legislation is poorly funded. This legislation, it's providing treatment for girls that is not safe. And what do we always hear? We hear people saying, well, we know everyone has a lot of strong feelings on the topic of abortion. This state, it's a matter of choice. If you don't want an abortion, you don't have to have one.
So it's a very manly Connie Leva impersonation.
Yeah, well, sorry, I was thinking of certain male legislators, but she's kind of a deep alto there, so maybe that works for her too. Anyway, basically patting us on the head and saying, you don't have the votes, pro-lifers. We're going to make this a pro-life versus pro-choice issue, even though you're trying to give arguments about the funding side of it. You're trying to give arguments about the safety side of it that everyone can agree with. No, we're going to poo-poo you and ignore you. Meanwhile, all of the arguments we made were true the whole time.
Yep.
And everyone just sort of ignored us and poo-pooed us and belittled us because they can, because they got 3/4 of the votes in both houses of the legislature. So now comes the big question. The California Assembly Appropriations Committee, which has to approve any bill that spends government money, finally approved SB 24 last Friday on the last day of August, the last day they were able, on August 30th, rather, the last day they were able to approve it. They approved it. And now the question is, what is the governor going to do? Last year, the Governor-elect Newsom at the time, or maybe he was just a candidate, indicated that he would have signed SB 320, which is what this bill was last year. That was its bill number last year. He indicated that he would have signed that into law, that he disagreed with Jerry Brown.
A key difference, he said, when they were asked during many debates, what are some key differences between you and Jerry Brown, because the Democrats were running so far ahead. Mm-hmm. The pro-choice issue, sadly, was one thing where Newsom said, I'm going to be even more pro-choice than Jerry Brown.
Exactly. So he said that like a year ago, but some water's gone under the bridge. And his own Department of Finance issued this report opposing it. I can't fathom that Newsom would have let them do that without, would have let them piss off key people within, Connie Leva is a very powerful senator. Would he have let his Department of Finance issue that report and just tick her off without him giving the okay to it first? I don't know. Would he have done that knowing that it would tick off Planned Parenthood, that it would tick off NARAL, that it would tick off all of these people who are very important for him? I mean, these are key supporters of him, key people whom he supported last year. Would he have done that? I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. And I'd have to think that, being the governor has to change you, because ultimately you are the one responsible for things. Like, when you're in the legislature, you're just one voice out of many. And I see so much with the legislature. There's so much buck passing that happens. There's so many times when you say, well, okay, I'll vote to approve this, and maybe we'll talk about amendments later. Okay, I'll approve this, and maybe the governor will think about it later. I'll just go along. I'll just do what my party says. I'll take the easy way out again and again and again. I won't really examine this bill very deeply. I'll just kind of take my party's word for it that this is the right thing to do. And I realize that kind of thing happens on both sides of the aisle in legislatures all over the country. But this just happens constantly. And finally, when you're the governor, there's no other way to go. The buck stops with you. If you sign this, there's no one else. There's no one else. You're the last backstop. And if you're going to sign something that your own Department of Finance has told you, this is not going to work. If you pass this, you're going to be increasing student tuition to pay specifically for abortion. That's what his own Department of Finance told him. And he's got the CSUs and UCs in his ears who, they can't say that they oppose this bill.
John.
Or at least they've refused to say that they oppose the bill. But clearly, they had their say with Jerry Brown last year.
Don't worry about it. Look, once President Warren takes office in 2021,
sure,
all college is going to be free anyway.
Right.
And the wealth tax, it's going to be fine. We're going to pay for everyone's college. We're going to pay for everybody's abortions.
It's going to be great.
Either Chief Warren or Uncle Bernie.
Chief Warren. Wampum Big Chief. Elizabeth Warren. Okay.
We're gonna be just fine.
Let's settle down.
I'm
not making fun of Native Americans. I'm making fun of Elizabeth Warren pretending she's Native American. Let's make the distinction there. Yeah, Elizabeth Warren, someone who at first sight, the first thing you think about her is, wow, she really looks like a Native American. Not, she looks like a white lady from Massachusetts. Yeah, Elizabeth Warren, about as Native American as I am, I'm guessing, which is to say, not very much at all. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. Say a prayer for Governor Newsom. I know the guy's slimier than an eel in mud, but God love him. He's our governor, and got to pray for the guy that he does the right thing on SB 24. And I think there's a greater than 0% chance that he will. I think so.
That high.
That's me. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week on Right to Life Radio.